everyone, I hope you're well. Today I'm going to do my February favorites. I'm filming this video on the 24th, so coming to the end of the month, and I'm going to share, as always, colors and mediums that I have enjoyed using throughout this month. So I will have some of my favorites this time. So I've got the Winsor Newton Gouache. I've got a number of pencils from Derwent. I have a Caran Neocolor II and Golden High Flow Acrylics in 2 colors, and then also Sennelier Oil Sticks in 2 new colors. One of the colors is kind of newish. Sorry that this footage I thought was recording and I was just chatting away to myself. So I have just gone ahead and swatched Mars Red and Antique White. So the Mars Red is a beautiful transparent color, but it can be built up to this gorgeous thickness and texture. It's super buttery. It's very smooth. On contrary, the Antique White is a very opaque color and it's a lot more dense. So if you wanted to add on the texture and opacity, when you work with the 2 colors together, they actually create a beautiful blend of colors. So I'll show you just here together. So here is our red Mars, or Mars Red, and then Antique White. So I tend to just go straight into the paint with them, and I don't mind if something gets on top because they don't dry for a few days, so you can wipe them off. And even if they dry, you will basically see a film creating over it, and for next time you just cut it off with a palette knife and you're good to go. So here is what I'm getting, and it's just so beautiful. So if I wanted to build up more on the Mars Red, I'll just go back in and add a little bit more, and you can see how quickly you can darken things up again. So I'll give you a little close-up. So here is our mix, and here is the color on its own, and you hopefully can see the texture. So you can let it dry like that. In a few days, when it's fully dry, you will keep the texture, or if you wanted it to be smooth, you could still do that. Same thing with the Antique White. I hope you can see the texture. It's not as obvious as here because of the different pigments here. Okay, so these are the oil sticks. Let me title them quickly and then we'll move on to the other supplies. So I just thought I'll show you in my swatch book how different this color looks to burnt sienna. Actually, there is a video coming up next week where I will be painting or working on a big canvas, and in that painting I said that I went over with the Mars Red over burnt sienna, and I totally forgot that it wasn't burnt sienna. In fact, I actually was questioning myself as I was saying it, but yeah, I totally forgot. So basically the color that you will see there is the Alizarin Violet Lake. It's got that sort of burgundy tone to it, and I think I mixed it with something else there. So the burnt sienna is right here, and here is the Mars Red. So they are fairly similar, but I find that Mars Red has even more transparency to it, and it has more of a orange undertone, where here it's sort of like a reddish brown, if I could describe it. So I just swatched these 2 colors because I realized I haven't had them in my swatch book to add to the existing collection, so I can't touch them because they're still wet. All right, and here you can see fully dry, but look how it's sort of dried with that texture. It almost looks like it's wet, but it's not. It's the beauty of oil paint that you just can't achieve the same with any other paints. There is certain heavy body acrylics, but they don't feel the same when you're painting with them. It's a totally different feeling that made me fall in love with these oil sticks. Just the tactile experience that you get. Okay, let's move on to acrylic ink. So going with the same color palette, let's start with transparent Red Iron Oxide. This is high flow acrylics and it's by Golden. So here we have similar color, very similar to burnt sienna, but we get a totally different effect where basically you can start using it like watercolor. When it dries, it creates a beautiful glossy finish where it's really packed on and thickly laid, but you can see it totally looks like watercolor. If you work quickly, don't let it sit for a while, like even just half a minute, and then go over it with water. You'll find that there is a line creating, because at the end of the day, these are, you know, acrylics. They are plastic-based paints. They're not watercolors. So the next color that I absolutely love is green gold. Oh my goodness. If you love your kind of chartreuse and green golds, and when I say chartreuse, it's like when you take a green gold and you add a little bit of sunshine. That's what this color is. But be aware, it's a little bit messy and a little bit unpredictable to work with. So little accidents like that happen all the time with these babies. So they're not for the clean, neat perfectionist type of an artist, but they're beautiful. Look at that. I'm just going to move out this color a little bit just to make it flow. You really come close, very close to the experience that you have when working with watercolor. But with the additional bonus of them being permanent. So once they dry, that's it. They don't move. They stay there. So if you wanted to work on top, you could totally do that. Apologies about the lighting changing, but I think we got some clouds that came in. Okay, so I just wanted to come back saying that I think I refer to these as acrylic inks. So they are not actually marketed as acrylic inks, but it says here high flow acrylics. And essentially they do act very much like acrylic inks. So that's why I kind of call them that way, but just wanted to clarify that they're not called like that. Okay, so the next one is Winsor Newton Designer Gouache. This color is Pale Rose Blush, and it's the perfect color that I have been sort of after in terms of this peachy pinky type of a color. Absolutely love it. And as you can imagine, gouache is super opaque, but again has a very similar flow to watercolors. So if you love working with watercolor, these are the options that you can use so far, with the exception of oil sticks, of course. But you can just, you know, create a little variety in the opacity of paints, but still have that fun element that reminds you of watercolor painting. Okay, so next one we have is a Linden Green, and it's as close as you can come to a chartreuse green, or shall I say to the perfect chartreuse green. It's just the most beautiful chartreuse green that I have experienced across a lot of things. There's a few chartreuse greens that I love. Actually, I'll try to link it up here in the video for you. I have a video where I swatch out all of my art supplies in chartreuse green, which might be fun for you to watch. Okay, let's do the next one here. So we're moving on to Caran Dash. Now this one is a fun little art supply. So you start off kind of feeling like you're working with a waxy crayon that brings you back to your childhood, but just much better because the colors are fantastic. Just to give you an idea, I always have a tray sitting right next to me on my desk, right here, because I love seeing these colors. They inspire me, and it's very easy for me to pick the right color to combine in my artwork. So that's what I love doing, and hence why they're always available to me. Okay, so with them you get Neocolor I, which is non-soluble or non-water soluble, and then Neocolor II, which is these ones, and the ones you just saw. So they are also behaving like watercolor. And basically, just to come back to my tray quickly here, so all of these, including this one, I just need to swatch it out, that's why I put it here, are water soluble, so Neocolor II, and these are my Neocolor ones, so those that stay permanent, and they are a great fun to use if you wanted to work with watercolor, to go over them, because they create a kind of repellent surface, and it will repel water, so that the line will come through from underneath the water, and the water kind of will just seep out onto the sides, and it just looks really, really pretty. Actually, I'll try to find an example quickly for you. So here, for example, sometimes it works better with certain colors than others, but here you can see the watercolor that went over it has not covered the Neocolor ones here, so you basically end up with these beautiful speckles of color peeping through, and I think it's quite beautiful and effective. Okay, so this color was let's see, light gray. It's gorgeous on its own like that. It changes slightly color-wise when you add water, but it's not something that kind of completely moves away from the original. Okay, so far you can see there's a bit of a color palette developing here, but I want to bring some darkness and depth into this color palette, and this is where these two babies come in. So coming back to these pencils, I've got Derwent Inktense in Lagoon. This is the closest color that I have in my pencils to like an ultramarine type of a color. I really started craving ultramarines. I'll just show you something quite quickly. This is something I've been working on yesterday, actually, yeah. And I really wanted this color in a pencil, and I went through a lot of my pencils, and I realized I didn't have an ultramarine. So this was the closest one. It's not quite an ultramarine, it's kind of ultramarine meets indanthrone blue type of a color. So yeah, that's basically where I was heading with it. And the other one is a darker color, but we'll come back to that, and I will swatch it. So Derwent Inktense, what is this pencil like? It's basically a super intense pencil that resembles that intensity of an ink. And so you get a lot of color. So on its own, it's okay, but it really comes alive once you add water. And look at this beauty. So it's super gorgeous. very vibrant and quite enjoyable. So this color is called Lagoon. And then let me swatch out this one. So this is a Derwent Lightfast and it's the dark indigo. This color is quite something. So it's super smooth. It grips onto the paper like butter. It's very intense and it's great for adding color. If you really wanted to bring some color, I can really push hard on this pencil and I never get any breakage. It's super nice, and you can see it almost looks like a black, but it's not a black. So it's this blue. I'll try to maybe, oh, that's the wrong color. Just create a lighter swatch here. So I'm going to title them and come back for a little close-up. So here are all these beautiful colors. Let's start with the Mars Red, an Antique White by Sennelier. These are the oil sticks, and this gorgeous creaminess that you can blend them into. Then we have Golden High Floor Acrylics in transparent red oxide and green gold. Here you can see there is this beautiful blooming effect that you can achieve with watercolors, so you can really achieve them as well, these sort of watercolor techniques with these high floor acrylics, which I keep on wanting to say acrylic inks, but yeah. And then we have the Winsor Newton Designer Gouache in Pale Rose Blush and Linden Green. So at the end right here, the colors are fairly similar. The difference would be the texture. This is quite opaque, and this has transparency to it as well as a slight gloss once it starts going into around here. So this is fully dry and it's got a bit of a gloss here where you can see once these dry, they're completely matte. This color or this area here of the swatch is not fully dry yet, and when it will dry it will have even more or slightly more of the gloss. Then we have Caran Neocolor II in light grey. No gloss there. And Derwent Inktense in Lagoon. So this one is not dry yet. And a Derwent Lightfast in dark indigo. So this one almost has a satin finish to it, and I have really burnished it on. And this is how I like using pencils, which I understand that not everyone uses pencils like that, but the more pressure when it comes to colored pencils, to me, the more joy I get out of them. So that is it for the swatch, and just to show you a bit of a piece of art that I have made. So here I was playing with some colors from this color palette, but I wanted to also have some blues in there, and here were a couple of blues that I was auditioning, but this isn't really me, which is absolutely fine. You don't have to love every single piece that you do, but push yourself into those areas that are a little bit out of your comfort zone just to find out something that you may love. So I don't like filling the entire page with color, even when it's really washed out. So that's not me, but I love the sort of abstract composition that I build, the little clusters that I end up building. And one thing that was also a lot of fun is when I used the Linden Green, which is that gouache, with or next to the still freshly painted oil sticks. So those are the two colors, the Mars Red and the Antique White. So they were freshly painted, and once I kind of added the Linden Green around the edges, the color just really went right onto the edge of it and created a really lovely effect. So you could use watercolor when the paint is still wet, so you don't have to wait until it's fully dried to have this effect. But if you wanted to add something on top of them, I would highly advise for you to wait a couple of days until it's fully dry, and then you can use things like the acrylic inks and you can paint over. And I will try to link a video up here for you where I actually showed you. I'll just show you quickly in case you're new to this channel, or in case you haven't seen the previous video. So this is where I played with the acrylic inks, and this is that very same color that we swatched out today, transparent red iron oxide, that I painted over dry oil sticks, and you can see how beautifully they have layered on top. And I've done the same with watercolor, and the watercolor has been repelled by the oil sticks even when they were fully dried. So watercolor doesn't work, although watercolor in metallic watercolor did work, even though some people said that be aware that it may flake off. But I mean, it seems to be pretty solid. I'll have to wait obviously quite a bit of time to find out if it flakes off or not, but you can see I'm going over with my nail and it's staying there. But I don't know what happens in, say, 6 months or 12 months time, so that will be something I will be looking out for in the future. But it seems to have worked so far. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this fun swatch fest and kind of can maybe take some of these colors for your own inspiration and color palette. And that's it for today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.